Thanks for joining me. This is Danny, and welcome back to my modded 1.12.2 series. Today we're going to be playing around with thermal expansion. We're going to be doing some auto-crafting for thermal expansion. I would like to set up auto-crafting for all the upgrades, including Enderium. Actually, we already have auto-crafting set up for the hardened upgrades. This is pretty easy. It's just Invar and bronze. Basically, the reinforced upgrades is just Electrum and silver. And I just set up auto-crafting for the Signalum, which was a little bit trickier, and we're going to go over that today. The hardest part was a Cryothium, and then we are together going to set up the Resonant upgrade kit, which means that we're going to be auto-crafting Enderium and Lumium and Pyrotheum dust. So there's going to be a few kind of tricky things in there, but nothing certainly terribly difficult. And then, if we have time after that, I would like to kind of set up an alternate build for this and this, just really quickly. I want to do something a little bit different based on some comments that I got in the last episode from Mr. Man #1 and Red Nebula. So first of all, let's take a look at our Signalum, or Signalum. I always call it Signalum. Some people say Signalum. I think it's supposed to be Signalum, but whatever. Well, let's take a look at this upgrade kit. So, to make the Signalum, we need to stick sand and the Signalum Blend in an induction smelter. Obviously, that's easy enough. And then the Signalum is pulverized copper and silver grit and destabilized redstone. And that... So, a few episodes ago, we had set up auto-crafting for something else. I think it was for all of our, for our Electrum Blend, our fluxed infused stuff. And we set up a magma crucible down here that just always has destabilized redstone in it. Today we're going to set up a couple more of these magma crucibles with other things in them. So theoretically we could have a single magma crucible set up for all of our crafting recipes and have kind of a complicated setup where something pulls the ingredients it needs to put into the magma crucible and blah blah blah. I don't like doing it that way because it tends to be somewhat clunky and it tends to break a lot and requires a lot of maintenance. Generally, when I have to use a magma crucible for auto-crafting, I just set up one magma crucible for each ingredient that we're going to require. So we already have this one set up with destabilized redstone, and there's a lot of recipes that use destabilized redstone, and we can see here's our blizz powder that we required for the Cryothium dust. Actually, I'm not auto-crafting niter. So we may do that today too. We may set up auto-crafting for niter. It's a little tricky because it's a small chance thing. So like there's no way that we get 100% chance of niter because all the recipes have a smaller chance. There is a way around that, and we're going to look at that today with a couple of recipes because there's a lot of ingredients in thermal expansion that are side effects of ingredients that we get from our pulverizer. So it's a secondary output, and generally the maximum secondary output we can get is usually 40%. So we're going to see how we can crank that up to 100% so that we can reliably set up auto-crafting for secondary ingredients, certain secondary ingredients, not all of them, but many of them. So then I have a recipe in here for the destabilized redstone, and basically all it does is it takes a bucket. You put a bucket in here, you get a destabilized redstone bucket. So that's kind of how all these fluid transposer recipes work, is we don't even think about the redstone. It's just already assumed that it's going to be in there. So we just say, hey, I'll give you a bucket, and you're going to give me destabilized redstone. I'm going to give you a diamond. You're going to give me a flux crystal. I'm going to give you a snowball. You're going to give me blizz powder. So that's how this is going to work. So we're going to have a pair of magma crucibles and transposers for when we get into our resonant ender. We're going to have to, it's a similar recipe, except we have the sand, and then we have the Indium Blend. Now the Indium Blend requires a bucket of resonant ender, which we get by putting it in a fluid transposer that has resonant ender in it, which we get by putting ender pearls in a magma crucible. So we're going to set up a setup just like this, except it's going to be automatically putting ender pearls into it rather than redstone. The Electrum is just silver and gold. Yeah, here we go. It's just silver and gold in an induction smelter that gives us Electrum. So that's all we're doing for that. Yeah, one silver ingot, one gold ingot gets us Electrum. And then here's our Signalum pattern. And then a lot of these other patterns we made when we were doing redstone arsenal setup. So now when we want a Signalum upgrade, it does it all for us. So let's just take a look at one so that we can kind of see what it's all making for us. So it has to make the cryothium dust, so it has to make the blizz powder, which we just saw how it was making that. This is just a crafting recipe, and it's just grabbing copper, electrum, and silver. We already saw how those are done. The snowball is used to make the blizz powder. Here it is. And that's it. So that's pretty simple, right? So let's start with the end. We're going to make a resonant upgrade kit, and that's just a regular crafting recipe. Whoops. Just a regular crafting recipe. And we don't need to ore dict it because there's nothing in there that even has an ore dict. So we're just going to put that in here in a regular crafting thing. And then of course if we try to craft it right now, it'll tell us what we're missing, and we're missing all kinds of stuff. We're missing everything, basically. Enderium, aluminium gear, and pyrotheum dust. So it just happens that these are all just regular crafting recipes too. We actually already have some sulfur in our system. Now sulfur is one of those things that if we look at the sulfur recipe, we will see, no, not the immersive engineering one. Let's look at the thermal expansion one. Oh, or thermal foundation, okay. We will see that in the induction smelter, we have a 25% chance of getting sulfur when we do netherrack and soul sand. Actually, that's not what I want to do. I want to do the pulverizer. When we put polished soul sandstone, or any soul sandstone for that matter, in a pulverizer, we have a 40% chance of getting sulfur, and we get soul sand back. So, and in order to make the soul sandstone, we just use 4 soul sand. So we're going to end up losing 2 soul sand in the deal. But we have a 40% chance of getting sulfur. Now, of course, it's not very useful when we are autocrafting, because then we don't know how many soul sand it's going to take. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to make another pulverizer. Set up a bunch of thermal expansion machines over here because we're kind of running out of room over there. Not ideal, but it's okay. We'll be fine. So there's my pulverizer, and I've got 3 upgrades for this guy. We're actually going to want to give it 4 upgrades altogether, but we're not prepared to do that quite yet. Okay, so now we have the Signalum upgrade, and we're going to use these auxiliary sieves for all of our augments. Each one of these auxiliary sieves is going to increase the chance of a secondary output. The first one is going to increase it by about 18%. The second one's going to increase it by about 43%. And the third one is going to increase it by about 82%. The fourth one is going to increase it by 150%. So it's going to be 2.5 times as likely to output a secondary output. So that means if our normal secondary output is 40% chance, it's going to bring us up to 100%, because 40 times 2.5 is 100. So yay. So when we're all done with this, we will have 100% chance of getting sulfur when we do any recipe that has a 40% chance. And we're going to do the soul sandstone, because we have a way of making sandstone, or we have a way of making soul sandstone, which we'll see in a bit. So now we got to get this thing set up for autocrafting. I'm going to put a crafter on top, and I'm going to have to turn it. There we go. I've got XNUD hooked up to the back of this thing. It's piping power in. It's pulling these items out. And then we've got the crafter going into the top. So here's what we're going to do. First, we need to make soul sand, because we don't always have a lot of soul sand in our system. In fact, right now we only have 2. And there's an easy way to do that with actual additions. And that is by just placing sand in our atomic reconstructor, or by our atomic reconstructor. So we're going to set up a processing pattern to change soul sand into, to change sand into soul sand. We don't really need ore dict, because I'm not sure if it'll work with different kinds of sand. So we'll just do this. And I had to put another crafter on our Actual Additions precision dropper. That's dropping things in front of our atomic reconstructor, because this one's full. Because there are so many things. There are so many things we can make with that. Okay, so that's soul sand. And then from soul sand, we need to make our soul sandstone, which is just, this is a quark recipe. 4 soul sand makes a soul sandstone. It's not a processing recipe. Okay, and then it's just a regular crafting recipe. So that can go in there. Set up the recipe for sulfur, and we're going to do the pulverizer recipe for soul sandstone, not polished soul sandstone, just regular soul sandstone. And we have to make this processing pattern, which means we have to do it all over again. All right, soul sandstone gives us 2 sandstone and a sulfur. 40% of the time, except it's going to be 100% of the time now. We don't need to oredict. Okay, so that should be fine. So if I put this in here, now this recipe isn't going to work perfectly yet. Although if we do request some sandstone, oh, wait a minute. We can't put sandstone in there. We have to remove that because we already have a sandstone recipe, so we don't want it to get confused. Okay, so we're just going to say that this recipe gives us sulfur, and we'll end up kind of with a byproduct of soul sandstone, or of soul sand. So now, if we go sulfur, if we say we want 10 sulfur, it's going to take 38 sand, and it's going to make 38 soul sand. It's going to craft 10 soul sandstone, and it's going to end up getting 20 soul sand back. So we lose half of our soul sand, and we should get, we're not going to get 20, or we're not going to get 10 sulfur. So this crafting recipe is going to get stuck. We're probably going to end up with more like 8, but that's okay. We'll just cancel it manually just to see that the stuff is working. So there's our sand being dropped. Some of it's turned into soul sand. Oh, but we have to add soul sand to this thing. Let's just put it there for now. There we go. Hooray. Oh, crap. We have to set this thing. So we have it outputting to the back. We have to have it input from the top. There we go. Yay. So we'll see. We're going to get sulfur most of the time, but not every time. Oh. So far, so good. But it won't be until we get that 4th augment in here that it's going to be 100%. But right now, it's very close to 100%. So yeah, so we just lost one there. Okay, so we got 9 out of 10 sulfur. That's not too bad, but we want it to be 100% because we don't ever want there to be a chance that the crafting recipe is going to get stuck. So it's still waiting for 1 more sulfur. I'm just going to cancel that for now. What we have left. So if we try to do one right now, we're going to see we're still missing Enderium, and we're missing Allumium, and we're missing Pulverized Coal. Really? I'm very surprised that we don't have a recipe for Pulverized Coal, which is just a piece of coal in the pulverizer. Oh, by the way, there is another way to get a 100% chance of sulfur, and that is since we have EvilCraft installed, we can make this blood waxed coal, which is just a piece of coal put in our blood infuser. That would actually be quite easy, but I just wanted to do the thermal expansion route today so that we can see, because this is kind of an important thing, because a lot of times we get stuck with recipes like this that have very few chances of producing a secondary output, and it makes autocrafting really difficult. Okay, so Pulverizer makes pulverized coal and we might end up getting some sulfur from that as well. Oh, actually, let's get rid of that sulfur in the output because we're usually not going to get that. Alright, so that's going to go in our pulverizer. We know that Enderium is just a induction smelting recipe that requires sand and the Indium Blend. So this is going to be a processing recipe. Sand of any kind, we can oredict the sand. We're not always going to get slag. Okay, and then the Enderium Blend, we have to show out how to make that. So we have pulverized lead and pulverized platinum. We're probably going to have to show it how to make pulverized platinum. Now we're actually getting a fair amount of platinum. Right now we have 91, and we also have 5 platinum ore we probably got from that. I now have 2 fluid transposers and 2 magma crucibles. So the magma crucible is what's going to take our solid items and turn them into fluid, and then the fluid transposer is what's going to take that fluid and create a solid item out of it. So I'm going to set up a magma crucible here and another one here, and these are both going to be connected to a connector from XNet, and then I'm going to put fluid transposers in between them. So for both of the, well, for all these, first I'm just going to shift click to turn everything off in our configuration. And so our magma crucible is going to be pulling stuff from the back, and that's going to be the solid item, and we're going to use XNet to get whatever solid item we want in our magma crucibles. One of them is going to pull ender pearls and make resonant ender, and then it's going to output that resonant ender to the right into the fluid transposer. I'm going to make a couple of crafters. And then our fluid transposer is going to pull from the left. It's also going to pull from the top. And it's going to output to the back. And it's in fill mode. That's what we want. And then this one is going to be exactly the same. We're pulling from the back. We're outputting to the right. And then this one's going to pull from the left and the top, and then output to the back. And then all 4 of these guys are going to get power above them. Okay. And we're going to need 1 cable right there to connect those. Okay, so there's our physical setup. One of the things that Red Nebula suggested was that instead of having this drawer here and having our refined storage system export stuff to the drawer so that our XNet system can then have access to those particular items, we can use a refined storage interface block. Interface fluid. Okay, so a regular interface. I have an interface from refined storage. I'm going to get rid of this exporter, and I'm just going to put a cable there, and I'm going to get rid of this drawer, which is going to make a big mess. Okay, and I'm going to put an interface right there. So first of all, to test this setup, we're already extracting from the interface, and we're already inserting into our player interface arrows if we have less than 64. So let's see what happens. Yep, it still works. Oh my gosh, that's so nice. So it's pulling stuff directly out of our refined storage system. So now XNet has access to everything. We can now tell XNet that we want to put ender pearls in there. And glowstone in the other one. Oh wow, we don't have much glowstone. I might have to use Britannia to double my glowstone a little bit. But before I actually set those up, I'm going to put 1 of the item that I want in each of these so that the magma crucible won't accept anything else, because before we get the filter set up, it might... Oh, this is really slow. We have to add the upgrades to these. So just to make sure that nothing else sneaks in there while I'm setting up the filters. Okay, so which one... Okay, so that's that one. We don't care about that one right now. So this one, second magma crucible, is our ender pearls one. Channel 5 is the one where we're pulling from our refined storage system. We want to create a node to insert... I don't have any freaking ender pearls now. Darn it. To insert... Dun, 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 dun. Okay, why can I not type in here? Okay, to insert ender pearls. So we should see Alright, we should see that it's inserting ender pearls. Hooray! I don't know. Okay, there we go. I don't know why that took so long. Because it's not pulling by the stack. We'll definitely have to tell that to pull by the stack. But before we do, let's get this one set up. So this one, I'm going to put like a half a stack of glowstone in there just to make sure something else doesn't go in there like happened with the other one. Okay, so just to double check, I'm going to double click this and we're going to look and we're going to see that's the correct crucible. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's this one. We are going to insert glowstone. So we should see that we have a stack of glowstone in there. Nice. Very cool. Okay, so that's the easy part. So this guy's going to get filled up with resonant ender. It's going to use a lot of our ender pearls. So resonant ender is then made by placing a bucket in that fluid transposer. So all it is I give you a bucket, you give me resonant ender. So this is a processing pattern. I give you a bucket, you give me resonant ender. Boom, boom. Easy enough. And that is going to go, I guess, ORDIC doesn't really matter because there is no ORDIC for buckets. And then the same thing. Energized glowstone. We give it a bucket. We get an upside down bucket of energized glowstone. The reason the bucket is upside down is because energized glowstone flows up when you place it in the ground. So this is the resonant ender bucket, or the resonant ender fluid transposer. So we're going to put that recipe in there, and this is the energized glowstone fluid transposer. So we're going to put this pattern in there. Nice. Now let's upgrade these machines. I actually think I already autocrafted upgrades. I did. We have hardened. We have reinforced. And we have Signalum. There you go. And we can probably just speed these all up, because why not? So auxiliary reception coil, I'm just going to make 16 of these. If I can, I can. Let's just check here. Pulverized lead. Okay, so we have to give it the pulverized lead and pulverized platinum, and then the aluminium ingots, and that's actually what we need this for. We haven't even started working with that yet. So obviously pulverized lead is just lead put in the pulverizer. Pulverizer, just lead ingots, and we definitely want that ORDICted. And then pulverized platinum is platinum in the pulverizer. That one we don't really need ORDICted because there's only one platinum, but whatever. And where's our pulverizer? Right here, and we are out of room in our pulverizer. Crap. Okay, so I've got a crafter down there. I'm gonna hide it. I put all the old recipes in there, the ones that we already have set up. I hate to do this, but I'm just, whoops. I especially hate to do that. I'm just gonna hide that. And if we ever need to get in there, we can just dig down there. It's unlikely we will ever need to get in there. Aluminium is in the induction smelter. It's Alluminium Blend, which is pulverized tin, silver, and energized glowstone bucket, which we already know how to make. Ready? Ready? Hooray! We can now autocraft this. Alright. Let's just do like 10 for now. And looks like we have everything we need. It's going to craft Alluminium Blend. Does it need to craft sulfur? It does. It's actually, oh no, it doesn't need to craft sulfur. We already have all that available. So there we go. Yay, we're making stuff. So we've got a bucket in here now. Oh, we forgot to pull the bucket. Oh, I also forgot to put augments in here. Okay. So I do have to tell XNet to pull from those. Alright, so we're extracting from this fluid transposer and this. Okay, so it should have pulled those out. It did. And now it's making another one. And it's making them really fast, although this isn't happening very fast, so we're going to have to speed that up. Our auxiliary reception coils. So we can put 3 of them in there. That should make it much faster. Yeah. And we have one more upgrade we can do to that yet. Yay, we have our 10 resonant upgrade kits. Very nice. Cool. So autocrafting for our resonant upgrade kits is pretty much done, although I do want to take this pulverizer and add our resonant upgrade kit so that we can add our final auxiliary sieve, which will make it so that we should now always get sulfur. So if we autocraft 10 sulfur, we should get 10 sulfur. So let's see what we got. Yep, we had 4, we now have 14. Hooray! And if we look in our crafting monitor, we will see that the crafting recipe is done. Nice! So our crafting is completely automated now for our resonant upgrade kit. Hooray! Our Signalum recipe requires niter, which is a similar situation to what we had with the sulfur, where we take sandstone and we put it in our pulverizer. We get a couple pieces of sand back, and we have a 40% chance of getting niter. Now, of course, we already know that 40% will translate to 100% when we put it in this pulverizer that has the 4 auxiliary sieve augments. So I did create a crafting recipe for that, for niter. 1 sandstone equals 1 niter. So we can now craft our Signalum upgrades as well without me having to manually make niter. So I'm going to do like maybe 5 of those. So we can see that it's actually going to craft a bunch of sand by pulverizing some cobblestone, and then it's going to craft sandstone, and then from the sandstone it's going to make niter. Hooray! That's it for our thermal expansion auto crafting of upgrades. Of course, if you have any questions, let me know. I just wanted to mention that Mr. Man number 1 had made a suggestion in the comments. I'm actually not going to take the suggestion today because I'm kind of running out of time here, and it's going to take some time to change this setup. But I did want to explain it to you so that you can kind of conceptualize an alternate way to set up this thing that I set up last time, and that is the Actual Additions miner automation that automatically generates ores and picks them up and then processes them in our ore processing. I set up this system to be completely independent, more or less, of my refined storage system. So the stuff is the stone is generated here, it's placed here, it's here, it's picked up here, and the XNet system is controlling all this. And I'm basically using timing to synchronize all this stuff. However, if you wanted to integrate this completely with your refined storage system, you could use constructors and destructors. You could have a constructor just placing the stone for you, and it would just always place the stone whenever that block is empty, like immediately. You could have a destructor with a blacklist that picks up everything but stone. And as soon as this block becomes something other than stone, it will pick it up. So then we don't have this need for this complicated timing setup. So like as soon as it can pick it up, it will, and it'll end up going pretty fast. And then our atomic reconstructor, all we would really have to do with that is like just repeatedly pulse it whenever there's a stone block here, and all the criteria are true that tells our system that, hey, we need resources from this. So that's just an alternative setup. It would require that we export ores from our system in order to process them, which I am not doing. I have all of our ores being processed before they ever even get into our refined storage system. So it's, again, this is another completely independent, separate subsystem, you could say. And that's kind of how I usually do things, but a lot of people like to integrate all their stuff with their refined storage system, and if that works better for you, that's just a little tip from Mr. Man number 1. So thanks for that tip, Mr. Man, and also thanks again, Red Nebula, for giving me the tip with the interface, because that kind of simplifies this. You know, again, this is another one of those situations where I wanted it to be separate from a refined storage system, but in a situation like this, it's actually is really nice to have it just pulled directly from the interface, and then we don't even have to have a separate inventory out here for that kind of stuff. And then also, before I go today, I just wanted to show you a couple things that I did off camera. I facaded a lot of my cables so that it's not quite as much of a mess down here. There were just twists of cables all over the place. So if we hold a facade or a network cable, we can see where all of our XNet cables are running right now. I've got connectors behind the wall here, behind all of our various machines. And then this one is actually running through our ceiling/floor. And then I've got these running in the walls over here as well, just to kind of clean things up a little bit so that it just looks a little nicer down here. And it also makes it easier to find room for machines and for routing other kinds of cables and stuff. And also, while you were away, I set up a little ender lily farm over here. Because I picked up a few ender lilies when... Hey, creeper. I picked up a few ender lilies while we were in the end. And I hadn't been using them because we had that Evilcraft set up. So I am now using them. I've got some greenhouse glass over here. Greenhouse glass makes a little bit of difference, actually, with the ender lilies. Not a whole lot, but as you can see, these are growing faster than these. We haven't picked anything up yet, but I'm probably going to go back to the end and pick up some more ender lilies so that we can have some fast ender pearls coming in. We can do a 12 by 12 area, or a 9 by 9 area with this Actual Editions farmer. I did this off camera because we've already set up the Actual Editions farmer with something else, so you didn't really need to see that because it's basically the same process. We put our ender lily seeds in the farmer. It does support ender lily seeds. You can put them in the farmer. It'll plant them on grass. It'll plant them on whatever. That's actually why I have these at different levels. We're going to be doing one of two things in the next episode, and it kind of depends on how much time I have and whether or not, or how quickly I can get a plan together for a build. In our 110.2 series, we had a little shrine honoring my subscribers and viewers and stuff who have contributed, either by contributing on Patreon or by just leaving lots of helpful comments and things like that. I do want to get a shrine set up in this world, and I just want to kind of think about how I want to do it, because obviously the build style in this world is very different than the one in that world. That one was kind of like a little town, or like, you know, we had our little main street and all that stuff, where this is like a rural, just like kind of a rural area where we've got little farm buildings and warehouse, or not warehouses, but like this is almost like a pole build. Oops, I forgot about the wings of the bat limitation, but we've got like a pole building here kind of thing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I'm gonna try to think of something that fits with our build style that would be kind of like a shrine-ish sort of thing where we can honor you guys and all the stuff that you do to help me out. So I do hope you join me for that. The other thing that we're going to be doing very soon, possibly in the next episode, depending on which I end up getting ready for first, and that is extra utilities. I do want to play around a little bit with extra utilities. We're probably going to make the angel ring, which in this pack requires the wings of the bat, but it does give us permanent flight. But we should be able to like progress very, very quickly in extra utilities right now because we've got some good resources. We have a dragon egg, so we're going to be able to set up a dragon egg generator and all that. Of course, if you did enjoy this, please don't forget to click the like button and to join me next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.